Imagine there are billions of stars around us, millions of planets, and many of them might even have life. But the question is, if the universe is so vast, then why haven't we met any other civilization yet? Are we alone? Or is there something that destroys every civilization before they can meet each other? Today on Mr. Sleepy Science, we will dive into a deeply mysterious and mind-shaking idea, the Great Filter Hypothesis theory. This video will make you sleep and also make you think. Slowly, in a calm voice, we will understand what this filter is, what it teaches us, and does it show us a glimpse of our civilization's future? So take a deep breath, close your eyes, and come with me on a cosmic journey. Chapter 1. The cosmic question, are we alone? Take a slow breath and just imagine that endless sky where countless stars are shining. Every star, like our sun, has planets circling around it. Some of these planets would be small, some giant, some covered in ice, and some perhaps warm and suitable for life like Earth. When we look at the sky at night, that emptiness we see is actually not empty. It is filled with mysteries, with possibilities, and with countless questions that the human mind has been asking for centuries. This is the oldest and deepest question. Are we alone? Is life only on Earth? Or somewhere else, in some distant constellation? Is there someone who is asking the same question? When scientists first started thinking that there could be life in the universe, this idea wasn't as strange as people thought before. Because if you look at the math, if our galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy, has about 400 billion stars, and around each star there are on average 5 planets, then that means in just our galaxy alone there could be about 2 trillion planets. And this is just one galaxy. There are billions of galaxies in the universe. So with so many planets, why haven't we received any signal yet? No radio message from anywhere, no spaceship, no intelligent voice, just a deep, mysterious silence. This is called the Fermi Paradox. This name came from a scientist, Enrico Fermi. One day in 1950, Fermi was having lunch with his colleagues. The conversation was going on about flying saucers and space life. Suddenly, he asked a simple question. Where is everybody? This question might seem very ordinary, but it became the deepest question of modern astronomy. Because when we look at the numbers, it seems almost certain that life must exist somewhere. But when we look at the sky, we only see silence. This contradiction is called the Fermi Paradox. Now think, if life formed on Earth after so many coincidences, then isn't it possible that on some other planet also, the same miracle happened? When scientists created the Drake equation, they tried to bind this question in mathematics. In this equation, they put many factors, like how many stars are formed, how many of them have planets, how many of those planets are suitable for life, on how many of them did life actually develop, and how many of them became intelligent. When the possibilities were added in this equation, the result came. We cannot be alone. Somewhere around some other star, on some other planet, some other life must surely exist. But still, why haven't we found anyone? Here begins the search for that silence. Many people said maybe we are too small, our technology is too limited. Maybe they have seen us, but we can't see them. Some said maybe They are too far away, so far that their signals would take millions of years to reach us. Some scientists also thought that maybe every civilization's lifespan is very short. It starts, it develops, and then for some reason it ends before it can communicate with anyone else in space. This very thought later became the Great Filter Hypothesis. But before reaching there, we need to understand why this silence is so mysterious. Imagine if on some distant planet there is also a civilization that sends radio waves or light signals like us. Then those signals should be able to be caught by our telescopes. We have tried this for decades. Institutions like SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, are constantly listening to space. We have pointed our biggest radio telescopes at the sky, like the Arecibo Observatory, and tried to decode signals coming from deep universe. But the result is only some strange, unclear signals whose source was never confirmed. The most famous was the WOW signal. In 1977, a radio telescope caught a very powerful signal that lasted 72 seconds. It was so precise and intense that scientists wrote WOW next to it. But this signal was never repeated again. Nobody knows where it came from some natural event or from some civilization. And then after that, the same silence again. Perhaps this is the scariest thing, that silence. Because if there were millions of civilizations in the universe, the sky would be filled with noise. From every direction, some signal, some mark would come. But no, just darkness and silence all around. Slowly, scientists realized that maybe this silence is not a coincidence. Maybe there is something that stops every civilization, a point that is almost impossible to cross. And if a civilization cannot cross it, then it gets destroyed. That filter is perhaps that wall which stands in the path of every advanced civilization. This very thought is the Great Filter Hypothesis. It says that somewhere in the universe, such a stage comes where almost every civilization stops. It cannot move forward due to some natural reasons or due to the destruction created by itself. It ends its existence before it can communicate with anyone else in space. Now think, if this is true, then there are only two possibilities. First, that this filter is behind us, meaning we have crossed the most difficult stage. We are lucky that life was born on Earth, became intelligent, and now we are starting to understand space. If this is so, then we are a rare miracle. But the second possibility is even more terrible, that this filter is still ahead of us. We haven't crossed that wall yet. And one day when we reach that level, then what happened to other civilizations will happen to us. Like them, we too will be destroyed. This thought is as scary as it is deep, because it forces us not only to think about the universe, but also about ourselves. What are we doing? Will we survive? Is our civilization also moving towards that same filter? But before understanding all this, we need to know what this filter is, how it works, and who first gave this idea. In the next part of this journey, we will know where this great filter started from and why it can define our entire existence. Slowly close your eyes, take a deep breath, and think, if the universe is so vast, then why is its silence so deep? Does this silence point to some scary truth, Or is it just a reflection of our own limitations? In the next chapter, we will dive into the depths of that mysterious silence, from where the real story of the Great Filter Hypothesis begins. Chapter 2. The Silent Universe. Slowly close your eyes. Take a long, deep breath. Now see with your mind's eye a calm night sky. Countless drops of stars, like someone sprinkled shining dust on a dark sheet. Every star telling its own story. Every point of light, a glimpse of the past that is millions of years old. But in that silence, there is something strange, a mysterious quietness. Despite the universe being so vast, so lively looking, it doesn't give us any answer. No message, no voice, no signal, just an endless silence. And perhaps this silence is the deepest puzzle, the silent universe. We think if life is truly common, then why this silence? Why doesn't any signal come? Why doesn't any technical civilization leave a mark of its existence? After all, why is the universe so quiet? Long ago, when humans first looked at the sky, they saw a god, a mystery in every star. Then, when science explained the real form of stars, it was realized that these stars are also like the sun. If our sun can give birth to life, then why not these other stars? By the middle of the 20th century, scientists were confident that there would be countless planets in our galaxy that could be home to life. When the first exoplanet was discovered in 1995, this belief became even deeper. Now we know almost every star has its own planets. But the question remained the same: where is everybody else? The age of listening in 1960, American astronomer Frank Drake first tried to listen to signals coming from other stars with a radio telescope. This project was named Project Ozma. He focused his telescope in the direction of two stars, Epsilon Eridani and Tau Ceti. The hope was that if there is a civilization there, then maybe we could hear their radio signals. But what he got was just silence. After that, for decades, SETI search for extraterrestrial intelligence projects continued. We listened to radio waves in every direction, searched for laser signals, studied patterns coming from space. Sometimes some strange signals came, then they disappeared. As if someone very far away looked at us once and then became silent. That silence is not just a scientific problem. It is also a philosophical experience. Because when you listen to that silence, you feel very small, like the universe is watching us, but not speaking. Why might the universe be silent? There could be many possibilities behind this silence. Maybe they are too far away, so far that their messages cannot reach us. Or maybe their way of communication is beyond our understanding. Think, like an ant standing in the middle of a huge city with a radio tower, but it can never understand what it is. Similarly, we might also be unable to understand some advanced conversation happening in the universe. Some scientists believe that civilizations might be self-limiting. They deliberately hide themselves because maybe there is something in the universe that destroys them when they reveal themselves too much. This idea is also known as the dark forest hypothesis. Imagine a dark forest where every creature is hiding to survive. If someone makes a sound, the hunter finds them. Maybe civilizations are also silent out of that fear, so that no cosmic hunter sees them. Our limited vision maybe the real reason is our own limitations. The technology we are searching with is still very primitive. The signals we are expecting are outdated. If a civilization is 10,000 years ahead of us, then maybe instead of radio waves, they are using some completely different medium of communication, like quantum communication or technology based on physics principles that we haven't discovered yet. And it's possible they have already tried to talk to us, but we just couldn't hear. It's also possible they don't exist anymore. Maybe they have already hit the great filter. They couldn't move forward and got lost in the path they created themselves. The philosophy of silence, this silence, shakes us not only scientifically, but also emotionally. When we look towards space, we look inside ourselves. We think if the universe is so vast, then maybe it is deliberately quiet. Maybe it is teaching us patience. Maybe it is waiting for us to first bring peace to our home, then ask questions of the sky. Sometimes this silence doesn't seem scary, but peaceful, because there is a kind of balance in it, an order, a gentleness, like some infinite state of meditation. Every star, every planet quiet in its own place, stable. And within this stability, maybe the universe's real music is hidden. Silence itself, if we listen very deeply, maybe we will realize that the universe is speaking. Just its language is beyond our understanding. It tells us something in every sunrise, every heartbeat, every gust of wind, but we cannot hear it in our own noise. Our attempts to speak back still, humans haven't stayed silent. We have sent messages to the universe ourselves. In 1974, the Arecibo message was sent to space. A digital message that had Earth's map, DNA structure, and a picture of human form. This message was sent in the direction of a distant star, M13, which is 25,000 light years away. If there is a civilization there, they will receive this message 25,000 years later. And if they reply, their answer will take another 25,000 years to come. Meaning, we will have to wait 50,000 years for a hello. This thought is beautiful and deeply humble too. Similarly, in spacecrafts named Voyager 1 and Voyager 2, we sent the golden record. This record has 115 pictures, hellos in 90 languages, and natural sounds of Earth, like the sound of waves, gust of wind, and a child's laughter. Maybe someday some civilization will find these and know that once on a blue planet, there was life that was sending messages of its existence to the stars. The lesson hidden in silence, this silence scares us and also teaches us. Sometimes it makes us realize our limitations, sometimes our responsibility. If there really is no one else in the universe, then this could also mean that we alone are the ones who can experience it. We are that rare consciousness that knows this vast universe. Therefore, it is our duty not to destroy it. Because maybe this is that filter civilizations destroy themselves before they reach others. And if this is true, then silence is not just a mystery, but also a warning. The universe is maybe telling us this. Be careful. The path you're taking is difficult. Many civilizations could not reach there. Slowly breathe. Experience this silence. It is not scary. It is just deep. The distance between every star, the silence of every light year, this is what tells the story of our existence. We are small, but we can hear. We are weak, but we can think. And maybe this is the greatest power, the ability to listen. Now that we have felt this silence of the universe, the next question that arises is, if this silence is for some reason, then what is that reason? What are the forces that stop every civilization? Where is that filter hidden that doesn't let life move forward? We will get answers to these questions in the next chapter, where we will know who first suggested this great filter hypothesis, and how this idea has become one of our deepest cosmic puzzles today. Chapter 3. The birth of the great filter idea. Slowly breathe and feel that you are going even deeper now, within that mysterious silence, where maybe there is a glimpse of some answer beyond. Till now, we have felt how vast the universe is, and how strange this silence is. We have seen that despite billions of stars and countless planets, no voice reached us. But now, in this chapter, we will know maybe why don't we get a voice? Why is this silence not just coincidence, but the result of some rule? Why does every civilization, no matter how intelligent, hit an invisible wall, a great filter? The beginning was from a thought. This story begins in the latter half of the 20th century, when humanity first started measuring its existence on the scale of the universe. Science, technology, and space exploration were developing rapidly. We had stepped on the moon. Radio telescopes were listening to the depths of space. But with this, a disturbing question also started rising. If we can do all this, then where is everybody else? While searching for the answer to this question, scientists adopted a new perspective. They thought, is it possible that life is born again and again, but every time it stops at some point? Could it be that in the development of life, there are some stages that are almost impossible to cross? This thought slowly started taking shape, and that theory was born, which we call the Great Filter Hypothesis. Nick Bostrom. A philosophical warning, this idea was clearly put into words by a philosopher and scientist, Nick Bostrom, who is associated with Oxford University. Bostrom said, "If life is common in the universe, then we should see civilizations everywhere. But if we don't see anyone, then it means there is a filter that stops most civilizations from moving forward." He defined this filter as any difficult stage in life's evolutionary journey, meaning life goes through many stages. The formation of a place like Earth, the beginning of life, the formation of complex cells, the development of intelligence, the rise of technical civilization. And in one of these stages, there is an obstacle that ends almost all attempts. Meaning, even if life starts on a planet, maybe it just cannot move forward. Or even if intelligent life is formed, it moves towards its own destruction. This thought was as logical as it was terrifying, because it meant that if no one else is in the universe, then either we have achieved the impossible, or we are moving towards that same wall that destroys every civilization. The evolutionary ladder Bostrom used the example of a ladder to explain this idea. Imagine life is climbing a ladder. Every step is a new stage. First step, the beginning of life. Second step, formation of complex cells. Third step, rise of multicellular organisms. Fourth step, development of intelligent beings. Fifth step, technical civilization. And the last, interstellar expansion. Now think, if every civilization climbs this ladder, then on some step or another, most civilizations stop. That step is the filter. And if this filter is downwards, meaning the beginning of life itself is very rare, then we are extremely lucky that we crossed it. But if this filter is upwards, meaning when a civilization reaches the technical level, that's when its downfall happens. Then it means our end is perhaps still to come. This thought scares us, but also reminds us of our responsibility. Because maybe we are that rare exception who have been given this chance to save ourselves. Answer to Fermi's paradox. Now think again about Fermi's question. Where is everybody? According to Bostrom's theory, the answer is very simple. They all got lost on the way. Someone started the journey, but didn't reach the end. Someone created technology, but that same technology destroyed them. Someone discovered energy, but that energy itself became the destruction of their planet. This filter is not made of one thing. It can be natural and also self-inflicted. Sometimes it's change in the planet's atmosphere, sometimes pandemic, sometimes war, sometimes losing control of uncontrolled artificial intelligence. Every civilization somehow falls in its own created path. The more powerful it becomes, the more it becomes a threat to its own existence. An uncomfortable truth. Here comes a very interesting but uncomfortable thought. If tomorrow we discover fossilized life on another planet, it will be bad news for us. Why? Because it will mean that the beginning of life is easy. So the filter is not behind us, but ahead of us. This means that most civilizations destroy themselves after reaching the technical level. And we are maybe on that same path. But if we don't find any sign of life anywhere, then it will be good news. Because it will mean that the beginning of life itself is very difficult. And we have crossed that rare obstacle. We are perhaps the first conscious beings of the universe who have reached this height on the ladder of this journey. This thought deeply carries both hope and fear together, because every possibility carries a message with it. Either we are impossibly lucky, or we are on a very dangerous journey. Natural filter versus self-destruction. The great filter can be of two types: natural filter and self-inflicted filter. Natural filter means natural obstacles that stop life from moving forward, like unstable atmosphere of the planet, constant meteor strikes, sun's radiation, or biological imbalance. Due to these reasons, life never becomes permanent. The other hand, self-inflicted filter is far more terrifying. It comes when a civilization destroys itself with its own power, like nuclear war, climate change, exploitation of resources, or losing control of artificial intelligence. Every civilization somehow falls in its own created path. The more powerful they become, the more they become a threat to their own existence. A philosophical vision Bostrom had said, "If we are here today, this is the rarest moment in the history of the universe." The meaning of this statement is very deep. Because if the filter truly exists, then we are living in that very small window where life has started recognizing itself. We are that moment when the universe saw itself through our eyes. This thought in itself is a spiritual experience. It takes us not just towards the search for external life, but also towards internal understanding. Because this filter is not just in space, it is within us too. Our greed, our imbalance, our violence, these are the elements that won't let us move forward. If we have to cross the great filter, first, we will have to break the limits within ourselves. Window to the future Bostrom's theory should be seen not like a scary warning, but like an opportunity. It reminds us that we are at that point where decisions matter. What we choose, technology, environment, peace, or war, that will decide whether we will be able to cross that wall or not. If we make balance, cooperation, and wisdom our path, then maybe we will be the first civilization to cross the great filter. And if we get lost in our own created machines, weapons, and greed, then we too will become part of that silence which we once looked at with fear. Slowly breathe. You will feel that this filter is not just a scientific theory, but a mirror that shows the soul of our civilization. In it, we can see our future or our end. Now we will understand this thought even more deeply. Where does the beginning of life happen? And how does this filter first enter in life's journey? Because the next chapter will take us to that initial moment where life is born for the first time, and where maybe the first seed of the great filter is hidden. Chapter 4. Life's fragile beginning slowly. The night is falling. The stars in the sky seem to be speaking some language of infinite mystery. Their shine is calm, but behind every light, a story is hidden, the story of life. Sometimes we think life is so natural, like it should just arise everywhere on its own. But the truth is that the birth of life is no less than a cosmic coincidence. This was no ordinary process. It was a miracle. Imagine Earth about 4 billion years ago. At that time, there were no trees, no animals, no humans, just a desolate, boiling world. Volcanoes were angry. The sky was filled with lightning flashes, and oceans were like chemical soup in which different elements were floating: carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen. Everything was present, but not life. And then something happened. On the edge of some lake, in some small water particle, maybe a spark of lightning fell. That spark joined 2 or 3 chemical molecules, and for the first time, a living molecule was born. It could copy itself. This was life's first seed. But think how impossible this is. How many times would chemical elements have met? How many times would energy have come? How many times would there have been failure? And then, finally, a situation was created that made a self-reproducing molecule. If this process is so difficult in the universe, then maybe this is the first filter. Maybe this is the reason we haven't met anyone else in the universe yet, because the beginning of life itself is a very rare event. If we look at Mars, there was also water there once. Europa, which is a moon of Jupiter, also has a liquid water ocean beneath it. Titan, Saturn's moon, is filled with methane. So the question arises, if so many planets have the necessary conditions for life, then why is there no life there? Or maybe there was life there, but it couldn't survive. Because giving birth to life is as difficult as it is difficult for it to survive. Here, the great filter whispers deeply. It says maybe life cannot start on every planet because conditions keep changing. Sometimes meteorites collide, sometimes climate deteriorates, sometimes the sun's radiation burns everything to ash. Meaning life is a delicate flame that can be extinguished by just a little wind. Our Earth is also a miracle. If the sun was a little hotter, our oceans would boil away. If it was a little colder, everything would freeze. If there was no moon, seasons on Earth would not be stable. If there was no ozone layer, the sun's rays would destroy us. And if there was no giant planet like Jupiter near us, meteors and comets would keep hitting Earth constantly. Everything is as if carefully balanced so that life can just survive by coincidence. Seeing all this, a scary thought comes to mind. Did this balance happen only once? Are we the only planet in the universe where everything happened in exactly the right way? If yes, then not only are we alone, but extremely lucky too. But science says wherever conditions are right, life is possible. So maybe life is everywhere, just not like us. Maybe it is microscopic, quietly hidden, or in completely different form that we cannot recognize. Maybe on some icy moon, microbes are sleeping, waiting for some new form of energy. Or maybe on some planets, life started, but died in its first stage itself. That's why scientists say abiogenesis, meaning the spontaneous birth of life, is the first and most difficult filter of any civilization's journey. If crossing this filter is so difficult, then maybe we are something very rare. Now imagine if life started. The next question is, will it be able to develop? Will it grow from a single cell to become a thinking being? Or will it always remain in microscopic form in the depths of the ocean? From here, the next stage begins evolution. But before that, one more deep thing. Many scientists believe that in many parts of the universe, life must have started, but never moved forward. On some of those planets, maybe meteors kept hitting repeatedly, the atmosphere was destroyed, or the planet burned itself to ash. Meaning both the birth of life and its survival are miracles. And if any of these failed, that civilizations never reached intelligent life. Here we can understand the great filter even more deeply. This is not just one obstacle, but a chain of many levels, where at each level, the possibility of failure is very high. And the first level, the beginning of life, is the most difficult test. Think, if only a few among millions of planets pass this test, then most of the universe will always remain dead, quiet, and dark. Stars will keep shining, but no life will ever dance around them. No laughter, no thought, no dream. So if we are alive today, if we can think, speak, dream, then this is the most wonderful miracle in the history of the universe. We are a flame burning in the darkness, a rare spark that has crossed the first obstacle of the great filter. But remember, this is just the beginning. Because starting life is one thing, but becoming intelligent life is another. Does every planet that reaches the spark of life reach the fire of intelligence? Can every microbe turn into a thinking being? Or is this the next filter that stops almost everyone? Now, our journey moves towards that next mysterious destination, where we will understand how life reached from a simple cell to a thinking being. and why this journey is as difficult as the beginning of life was. Take a deep breath and let's enter the next night, where the slow but wonderful story of evolution is waiting for us. Chapter 5. From simple cells to thinking beings in the silence of the night, when the wind blows slowly and stars remain immersed in their calm glow, then a question arises in the mind. How did a tiny invisible organism one day start thinking, feeling, and understanding the universe? How, from the simple reaction of lifeless chemicals, was a conscious existence born? This very journey that happened over billions of years is the second, and perhaps most mysterious stage of the Great Filter. We saw in the last chapter how difficult the beginning of life was. Now suppose that first step happened. Microbes were born in some planet's ocean, but now the biggest question before them was to survive. The first forms of life were extremely delicate. They could easily be affected by air, temperature, radiation. Their existence was somewhat like a bubble floating in a calm pond that could be destroyed by one gust. And then nature gave them a challenge, the challenge of evolution. This challenge was simple. If you want to live, then change. Slowly, over billions of years, these microbes learned to adapt themselves. Some found a new way of energy. Some developed cell walls to protect themselves. Some started eating other organisms for energy. And then came a miracle multicellular life. When many cells started working together, complex organisms were born. Algae, insects, fish, plants. Life took its first step towards diversity. But think billions of years passed, and life remained only in water. No civilization, no language, no thought. Why? Because the birth of intelligence is as difficult as the birth of life was. Nature is not in a hurry. It keeps experimenting for millions of years. Every organism is part of its experiment. Some succeed, some get destroyed. Then came a time when dinosaurs were ruling Earth. They were huge, powerful, and scary, but not intelligent. If intelligence is measured, it slowly started growing in a tiny creature in mammals. Dinosaurs were destroyed, maybe because of a meteor. But their going opened a path for small, hidden creatures who are now going to become the real future of Earth. One branch of these slowly reached humans, but this was also not an easy journey. Our ancestors were never intelligent. They were just trying to survive like animals. But nature slowly started making their brain complex. They learned to control fire, made tools from stones, learned to hunt together. And then they learned language. Language was that moment from where civilization was born, because language gave humans the power to understand others' thoughts. Thoughts made plans, plans made societies, societies made the future. From here, intelligence took its real flight. But hearing all this, a question arises. If nature is so creative, then why doesn't this happen on every planet? Why didn't intelligent life develop everywhere? Why didn't a thinking being emerge from under every ocean? Maybe this is the next stage of the Great Filter, the impossible journey to reach intelligence. Because on every planet, conditions are not as stable as they have been on our Earth. On many planets, life may have started, but repeated catastrophic events destroyed it. Sometimes a meteor hit, sometimes the atmosphere changed, Sometimes the temperature increased so much that everything ended. If reaching intelligence requires billions of years, then any disaster coming every so often resets that progress. Meaning most civilizations never learned to think. We humans passed this test, but how difficultly facing one crisis after another, we completed the journey to fire, tools, language, agriculture, and society. But this journey was not only of biology. It was also the development of consciousness. Thinking, asking questions, imagining all this is the universe within us. Maybe the Great Filter also says that only those civilizations move forward who go beyond just surviving and start searching for meaning. When a being starts understanding why it is, how it is, and what it can do, then it becomes intelligent. But this very point is another dangerous turn, because intelligence gives the capability not only of creation, but also of destruction. So, is it possible that many civilizations in the universe became intelligent, but were destroyed by their own creations? Did they also make the same mistake we are making fighting with nature, exploiting resources, or turning our weapons against ourselves? If so, then maybe intelligence is the most dangerous stage of the filter, where very few civilizations survive. Many scientists believe that the rise of intelligence and technology gives civilization a double-edged sword. On one side, it opens the path to reach the stars. On the other side, it can also lead to self-destruction. Maybe this is why there is silence in the universe, because those who gained technology destroyed themselves. But still, we are here. We are thinking, speaking, asking questions. We are looking at the stars and saying, is there someone else there? This means we haven't given up yet. We have crossed many stages of the Great Filter till now. But the journey is not over yet, because as civilization grows, challenges also grow. Now the question is not whether life started or became intelligent. The question is, can it survive for a long time? In the coming chapter, we will see how this intelligent life creates a civilization, and then what challenges it faces that can destroy it. We will understand that the Great Filter is not just biological, but also social, technical, and ethical test. And maybe there is hidden the real answer to why we haven't met anyone else yet. So now take a deep breath, calm your mind, and slowly let's go into the next chapter where the story of civilization begins. Chapter 6. The civilizational barrier. The night has become deep. Countless stars are spread in the sky, some dim, some bright, and some so far that their light has taken billions of years to reach our eyes till now. Among all those stars, maybe somewhere there would be another world, a place where some intelligent being once looked at the sky and asked the same question we ask, is there someone there? But maybe they asked this question too late, or maybe they were destroyed before asking it. This is the civilizational barrier, that wall beyond which perhaps it is most difficult for any civilization to go. Before this, we saw how rare the birth of life is, and how long a journey it is to reach intelligence. But now the real test begins when a species starts thinking, speaking, and creating. Because from here, the birth of civilization happens, and maybe from here its destruction too. The first step of civilization If we look at human history, we will see how fragile our civilization emerged from its beginning. In the beginning, we were just hunters. We lived in groups, were afraid, ran away, and bowed before nature. But when we controlled fire, when we made language and tools, then for the first time we learned to control nature. From here, the first seed of civilization was planted. Agriculture taught us to settle in one place. Villages were made, then cities, then empires. We collected knowledge, made science, created art, and built a society where thoughts became the real power. But the higher civilization climbed, the more it prepared an invisible danger below itself. Because the more power, the more responsibility. And a small mistake can push civilization back to where it started from. The trap of civilization. Every civilization is standing on a delicate balance between knowledge and ignorance, power and humility, creation and destruction. When a society increases its technology very fast, but not its morality, then a civilization trap is formed. This trap is invisible but deadly. As technology grows, the possibility of destruction also grows. We learned to use energy, but also made nuclear weapons. We made the internet and artificial intelligence, but also gave birth to cyber warfare and digital chaos. We made industries, but with that also climate crisis and natural imbalance. Many scientists believe that this is the biggest part of the Great Filter. Life can be formed. Intelligence can also develop. But civilization cannot keep itself sustained for a long time. It destroys itself under the burden of its own creations. The logic of self-destruction. Think how many civilizations there must have been that came before us. How many worlds where life tried to reach intelligence. Maybe they also did what we're doing: exploitation of resources, destruction of environment, war, race for power. And maybe they too one day turned their world to ash with their own hands. Because when a civilization advances so much in technology that it can change its world, at that very moment, it also gains the power to destroy itself. Nuclear bombs, biological weapons, or artificial intelligence, these are all modern filters. And on the other side of the universe, maybe some other civilization used these, and it is now just ash on the surface of some cold planet. Maybe this is the reason the sky is so quiet, because every civilization that learned to speak, that looked at the sky, and that tried to understand the universe, they all ended in their own arrogance. Intelligence versus wisdom. Intelligence and wisdom. There is a thin line between these two. For a civilization to survive, there needs to be a balance of both. We have become intelligent. We have made nuclear power, artificial intelligence, and spacecraft. But have we also become wise? Intelligence tells you how to do it, but wisdom teaches you what should be done. If a civilization has only the first and not the second, then it moves towards its own downfall. Maybe this is the civilizational barrier. Intelligence can be gained by every being, but wisdom comes to very few. And those who don't learn it get lost in the darkness of history. Balance of the universe. Many astronomers say that maybe the universe itself maintains balance. When a civilization advances too much, so much that it starts affecting the entire planet, then nature stops it. Sometimes a pandemic comes, sometimes climate crisis, sometimes social collapse. Hearing this is also scary, but maybe this is the universe's way of ensuring that no civilization crosses its limits. Because if a civilization spreads unlimitedly, it will destroy everyone else's existence. Maybe this is a cosmic safety mechanism, a natural prevention system that keeps the universe stable. Glimpse in humanity's mirror. When we think all this question returns within us. Are we also on that same path? We are proud of our technology, but have we learned its responsible use? We made the internet, but now it is controlling us. We made weapons, but we are afraid of ourselves. We gave machines the power to think, but have we stopped thinking ourselves? Maybe we are also standing in front of that same wall beyond which many civilizations could never go. And this wall is not of science, it is of self-control. If we cannot cross it, then the great filter will end here for us. Another possibility, but everything has another side too. Maybe some civilizations have crossed this filter. Maybe they learned to avoid self-destruction. Maybe they became so wise that they hid their presence in the universe. Maybe they are watching us from afar to understand whether we will also walk on that same path. And maybe only when we prove that we can cross this civilizational barrier, only then will they contact us. The next level of civilization, if we can cross this filter, the next stage will be reaching the stars, a civilization that will not be limited to just its planet, but will learn to settle in space. It will take resources from outside its planet, use its sun's energy, and make itself a permanent part of the universe. But to reach that point, we will have to change our thinking, rise above our greed, overcome our fears, and learn the right use of our power. Only then can we pass this biggest test of the great filter. Slowly, we are now starting to understand that the real test of civilization is not of weapons or technology, but of the soul. If we can combine our intelligence with humility, then maybe we will move forward. Otherwise, we will also be like those civilizations that once were, but are no more. Now, the next journey is even more mysterious, because now we will enter that area where civilizations either destroy themselves or go beyond their limits and become immortal. Now, we will know how technical power and the fear of existence walk together, where intelligence can become the reason for its own downfall. Chapter 7. Self-destruction and salvation. Slowly, the night is deepening, and our thoughts are also deepening in that darkness. In the journey so far, we have seen how fragile life is and how rare it is to reach intelligence. But now, we are standing in front of that terrifying door through which every civilization has to pass that point where their future is decided. Some move forward and some get destroyed. This is that moment where the darkest form of the great filter appears. Every civilization, when it reaches a particular level, immense power comes into its hands. And this very power can become its biggest enemy. Think as soon as a civilization gets knowledge of nuclear energy, advanced technology, or artificial intelligence, at that very moment, it also creates a threat to its own existence. The bigger the power, the deeper the danger. On our Earth too, this story has been repeated again and again. Human civilization discovered fire, and and with it came safety, but also the path of destruction opened. Then came the Industrial Revolution, which gave prosperity, but also planted the seed of climate change. Now we are in the era of artificial intelligence and genetic technology, an era where we not only understand our existence, but also have the capability to destroy it. Many scientists believe that the great filter is ahead of us, meaning that point hasn't come yet, which will decide whether we will be permanent in cosmic history or disappear like a speck of dust. If we look at the future, dangers are countless. Climate crisis, nuclear war, population explosion, shortage of resources, and losing control of artificial intelligence. These are all possible filters. One mistake and our civilization can become part of that cosmic graveyard where maybe countless civilizations are already buried. But in every danger, a hope is also hidden. This very balance is the essence of self-destruction and salvation. On one side is the possibility of self-destruction. On the other side is the path of liberation. The question is not whether the filter exists or not, but whether we can become worthy of crossing it. Imagine if a civilization becomes so advanced that it can keep its planet's environment balanced, keep its weapons controlled, and use its energy not for destruction, but for development. That civilization can move forward, that can reach the stars. But this path is difficult, and time is very short. Human history, whenever we have made progress, the risk of destruction has also increased with it. The discovery of fire gave us warmth, but also burned cities. Nuclear power gave us energy, but also left the ashes of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And now artificial intelligence can take us to new heights. But if it goes out of our control, it can become our final filter. Many philosophers believe that the real test of a civilization happens when it gains the capability to destroy itself. At that very moment, it has to decide, will it use this power for creation or destruction? This is that turning point where its future is written. And maybe most civilizations fail at this test. They cannot control themselves, and in the end, they destroy themselves. But we still have a chance. We are at that crossroad where our every decision matters. If we understand our responsibility, if we control our greed, if we maintain balance with nature, then maybe we can cross the great filter. And if we fail, then we will also become part of that silence which we have been fearing. The choice is ours: self-destruction or salvation, destruction or liberation, end or beginning. What we choose today will decide the story of our civilization tomorrow. So take a slow breath, feel this moment, and think, what will we choose? This is our test. This is our time. This is our great filter. Chapter 8. The Technology Trap. Close your eyes slowly. Feel the gentle rhythm of your breath. Now imagine a civilization that has just discovered the secret of splitting atoms. In that moment, they hold two paths in their hands. One leads to unlimited clean energy that can power their entire world, and the other leads to weapons so powerful they can turn their planet into dust. This is what we call the technology trap, where every advancement brings both promise and peril. Throughout our history, we've seen this pattern repeat itself. Every tool we've created has been a double-edged sword. Fire kept us warm, but also burned forests. Electricity lit our homes, but also powered instruments of war. The internet connected us, but also created new ways to divide and control. Now we stand at the edge of even more powerful technologies: artificial intelligence, genetic engineering, nanotechnology, each one capable of transforming our world or ending it. Think about artificial intelligence for a moment. We're creating machines that can think, learn, and make decisions. Some scientists believe AI could solve all our problems, cure diseases, end hunger, even reverse climate change. But others warn that if we're not careful, if we create intelligence without wisdom, we might build something we cannot control. Imagine an AI that becomes smarter than us, that doesn't share our values, that sees us as obstacles to its goals. This is not science fiction. This is a real possibility that keeps many researchers awake at night. Or consider genetic engineering. We now have the power to edit the very code of life, to remove diseases before babies are born, to make humans stronger, smarter, healthier. But where does improvement end and danger begin? What if we accidentally create a virus we cannot stop? What if we change ourselves so much that we lose what makes us human? These questions aren't easy, but they're urgent. Maybe this is why the universe is silent. Maybe other civilizations discovered these same technologies, felt the same excitement, made the same mistakes. And maybe they didn't survive to tell the tale. Perhaps scattered across the cosmos are the ruins of worlds that went too far, too fast, without the wisdom to match their intelligence. The test of balance, the real filter, isn't technology itself, it's whether we can use it wisely. Can we create power without letting it corrupt us? Can we advance without destroying what sustains us? Can we change the world without losing ourselves? These are the questions every civilization must answer when they reach this stage. Some scientists talk about something called the technological singularity, a point where change happens so fast that we can no longer predict or control it. It's like standing on the edge of a waterfall, feeling the current getting stronger and stronger. Once you go over, there's no turning back. Maybe most civilizations reach this point and can't stop themselves from falling. They're swept away by their own creations. But it doesn't have to be this way. We still have time to choose a different path. We can decide to develop technology slowly, carefully, always asking not just, can we do this? But should we do this? We can build safety measures, create international agreements, think about long-term consequences instead of just short-term gains. We can remember that we're not just building machines, we're shaping the future of life itself. Learning from our mistakes, look at our planet now. We're facing climate change because we didn't think about the consequences of burning fossil fuels. We're drowning in plastic because we made it too cheap and convenient without planning how to deal with the waste. We've created weapons that can destroy us all because nations didn't trust each other enough to stop competing. Every one of these problems is a lesson, a warning from our past selves to our future selves. The question is, will we learn? Can we see these dangers before it's too late? Or will we be like the frog in slowly heating water, not noticing the danger until we can't escape? Maybe the great filter is simply this, the inability of intelligent beings to learn from their mistakes quickly enough. But there's hope too. We've solved big problems before. We banned chemicals that were destroying the ozone layer. We created international laws to prevent the worst uses of nuclear weapons. We've started caring about endangered species, about preserving nature, about thinking beyond just our own generation. These small steps show that we can change, that we can choose wisdom over short-term gain. The race against time, here's the uncomfortable truth. We're in a race. On one side, we're developing technologies faster than ever before. On the other side, we're trying to develop the wisdom to use them safely. Which will win? Will we become wise before we become too powerful? Or will our power outrun our wisdom? Some philosophers say this is the ultimate test of consciousness itself. Intelligence is easy. The universe can create smart beings. But wisdom, self-control, the ability to think about tomorrow instead of just today, that's rare. That's precious. And maybe that's what separates civilizations that survive from those that don't. Think about it. Right now, somewhere in the universe, there might be another civilization facing these same choices. They might be debating whether to build that next weapon, whether to release that new technology, whether to take that risk. And their future, like ours, hangs on those decisions. Some of them will choose wisely, some won't. And the universe will remember only the ones who made it through. The path forward, so what do? How do we cross this technology trap? The answer isn't to stop advancing. We can't go backward. And standing still isn't an option either. The answer is to advance mindfully, carefully, always keeping our humanity at the center. We need to build not just better machines, but better humans, more compassionate, more far-sighted, more connected to each other and to nature. We need to create systems that catch our mistakes before they become catastrophes. We need leaders who think about the next 100 years, not just the next election. We need education that teaches not just how to build things, but when to build them and why. We need a culture that celebrates wisdom as much as it celebrates intelligence. And we need to remember that we're all in this together. Climate change doesn't stop at borders. A pandemic doesn't care about nationality. A rogue AI would threaten everyone. The problems we face now are global, and they require global solutions. Maybe that's another part of the great filter, whether civilizations can overcome their tribal instincts and work together when it really matters. Breathe slowly. Feel the weight of this moment. We're living through one of the most important chapters in human history, the chapter where we decide whether we have a future or not. It's terrifying, yes, but it's also beautiful. Because unlike the animals, unlike the machines, we can choose. We can look at the path ahead, see the dangers, and decide to walk carefully. That choice, that ability to choose, might be our greatest power. Chapter 9. The hope beyond the filter. The night is almost over now. In the darkness, there's a hint of something else, not yet light, but the promise of it. And maybe that's where we are as a civilization. Not yet safe, not yet through the great filter, but aware of it, working on it, hopeful about it. Because here's what we haven't talked about enough. What if we make it? What if we're one of the rare civilizations that crosses every stage of the great filter? What if we survive our own intelligence, our own power, our own mistakes. What lies beyond? Imagine a future where we've learned to live in balance with our planet, where technology serves humanity instead of threatening it, where we've settled not just Earth, but other worlds too, spreading life across the cosmos like seeds on the wind, where we finally hear that signal from another civilization and realize we're not alone after all. That future is possible. Difficult, yes. Uncertain, yes. But possible. Some scientists believe that if a civilization makes it past the Great Filter, it can last for millions or even billions of years. It can explore the galaxy, learn the deepest secrets of reality, create beauty and knowledge beyond anything we can imagine now. It can become a permanent part of the universe's story, something that will be remembered long after stars have died. And maybe, just maybe, that's our destiny. Not to be another cautionary tale, another civilization that destroyed itself, but to be one of the success stories, one of the rare ones who made it through, who learned to balance power with wisdom, intelligence with compassion, progress with preservation. The Fermi Paradox revisited Remember Fermi's question, where is everybody? Now we understand the possible answers better. Maybe they're not there because they didn't make it through their filter. Or maybe they are there, watching us quietly, waiting to see if we're wise enough to join them. Or maybe we really are the universe's first attempt at conscious, technological life that actually worked. Each possibility carries its own kind of wonder. If we're alone, then every human life, every act of kindness, every piece of art and music and love, all of it becomes infinitely precious, the only light in a dark universe. If we're not alone, but others are hiding, then we have something to work toward proving ourselves worthy of contact. And if we're the first, then we have a responsibility to do this right, to show the universe how it should be done. A message to tomorrow, picture this. Thousands of years from now, a human child on a colony orbiting a distant star looks up at their night sky. They're learning about history, about how humanity almost didn't make it, how we stood at the edge of the Great Filter and chose to step carefully across it. They're learning about the sacrifices made, the wisdom gained, the moment when we decided that survival wasn't enough. We wanted to thrive, to grow, to become something beautiful. That child exists only if we make the right choices now. That future is in our hands, not in the hands of some leader or some scientist or some hero, but in all of us together. Every time we choose cooperation over conflict, sustainability over convenience, long-term thinking over short-term gain, we're building that future. We're crossing that filter. The choice the universe is watching not with eyes, but with the patient attention of natural law. It has seen countless worlds, countless attempts at life and intelligence. Most have failed. A few might have succeeded. And now it's watching us, waiting to see which category we fall into. But unlike a true test, we know the questions in advance. We can see the dangers. We know about climate change, about nuclear weapons, about the risks of artificial intelligence. We're not stumbling blind into catastrophe. We're walking into it with our eyes open, which means we can also walk away from it if we choose. So here, in this quiet moment, In this space between sleep and waking, between one day and the next, make a choice. Choose to care about tomorrow. Choose to think about the world you're leaving behind. Choose to be part of the solution, even in small ways. Because the great filter isn't just something happening to us, it's something we create or avoid through millions of small choices every day. The final thought, as your breathing slows and sleep begins to pull you under, hold onto this thought. You are part of something vast and important. You're living through the moment when humanity either becomes a lasting part of the cosmic story or fades away into silence. That might seem overwhelming, but it's also empowering. Your life matters. Your choices matter. The kindness you show, the wisdom you seek, the care you give, all of it matters. The great filter stands before us, ancient and impartial. It doesn't care about our dreams or our fears. It simply is. But we can cross it. Together, with wisdom and courage and patience, we can become one of those rare, precious civilizations that makes it through. We can be the ones who prove that intelligence doesn't have to lead to destruction, that consciousness can be a blessing instead of a curse, that the universe's long experiment with life can have a happy ending. So sleep now, knowing that tomorrow brings another chance, another day to build that better future, another opportunity to choose wisdom over foolishness, cooperation over conflict, hope over despair. The journey through the great filter is long, but we're walking it together. And maybe, just maybe, we'll make it to the other side. The stars are still shining in the darkness. They've been shining for billions of years, waiting patiently for someone to notice them, to understand them, to join them. And that someone might just be us. Not because we're perfect, but because we tried, because we learned, because when we stood at the edge of extinction, we chose to step back and think and change. That's the hope beyond the great filter, not that crossing it is easy, but that it's possible. And possibility is all we need. Good night. Dream of stars. Dream of futures. Dream of all the beauty and wonder waiting for us if we can just be wise enough, brave enough, compassionate enough to reach for it. Thank you for journeying with me tonight here on Mr. Sleepy Science. Until next time, keep looking up, keep thinking deep, and keep hoping for humanity's bright future among the stars.